Gabri is currently working on the PvP dedicated mod that is essentially rebalancing the game around.
Hello everyone.
Hi Gabri.
When it comes to Elden Ring, most of us admit that the PvE was a great experience. However, when it comes to PvP, it has been a horrendous ride for many reasons for many people, including me. There
Ooh.
are the issues of the extremely limited modes you can play in the multiplayer, such as no covenants, 4-player limit hurting the ability to do fight clubs in team-based invasions, the lack of solo host invasions, and so on. This is a long subject that I will have to discuss in detail in the next video, hopefully. In this video, however, we will be discussing the issues relating to combat balance, where Elden Ring, when released, was by many considered the most unbalanced PvP in all of From Software. In this video, I plan on giving a visual presentation on how to balance the PvP for Elden Ring Combat with modding, and what is possible to do for balancing purposes from a technical level. From Software added a great tool in patch 1.07 that is so easy to use that a person with my level of technical expertise could do in a span of a day. Before we start, let us call this visual presentation patch as PvP mod or just mod for ease of explanation. Without further ado, let us begin. Poise. Some consider this a very controversial topic, but in reality it really isn't, for passive poise specifically, and only seems like it due to people making it too personal since they are blinded by nostalgia instead of trying to be objective about a PvE specific mechanic. The issues related to poise are at the core of the Elden Ring PvP problems. I did a whole series on this matter that I don't want to repeat myself here, but the conclusion was basically that passive poise should not be the highlight of combat and rather should be a support mechanic to control the demons of the game, such as fast long-range projectiles or unreactable melee attacks.
Gabri bringing up literally the best poise system that was in the game, which is Dark Souls 2. Dark Souls 2 had passive and active poise. In the meaning, it had like hyper armor, it had like a super armor, it had regular poise, and these things were coexisting. Generally speaking, the amount of the hyper armor that he was receiving was depending on the weapon that he was using. And on top of that, like, the poise on its own was only helpful against very fast weapons. And for an example, if you are facing very good PvP players in Dark Souls 2 nowadays, you can be almost certain that they are going to use something like, for example, dagger. Why? It is a knowledge check. If you are not going to have enough poise to withstand dagger, then you can be easily bullied in the PvP, because having the certain amount of poise is just hella important for the sake of to withstand these very fast weapons. But any other weapon that you can possibly imagine in the game, like vast majority of them, you are not going to withstand, especially if they are like handled in the two hands, yeah? Maybe like a stuff like, for example, rapier you can withstand, yeah? Like thrusting swords and so on. But for example, katana in two hands, you are never going to withstand that one. Whereas Dark Souls 2 is fucking shit. Let's make things clear. Objectively, it is bad game. They had shit tons of ideas, but many of these ideas were not working, and PvE in this game is laughable. But the systems that they were working on and like the whole fucking background, especially for the PvP in Dark Souls 2, was great. And that's why so many people also love PvP in Dark Souls 2, because it's at the end of the day, like, it's a very well balanced game from the systems perspective. It just, things just works. They are fair, they are good.
We made all the attacks that are 10 frames or faster from neutral deal even lower poise damage than vanilla. Weapons like stray swords, katanas, axes, spears can now break your passive poise entirely all the time. There is no stun locking, contrary to what others think, as Elden Ring attacks have very low stun with no true combos compared to the likes of Dark Souls 3 that had true combos. Thrusting swords and Shamshir Corpse Sword received a unique treatment. Their second light attack deals extremely low poise damage, while their first light attack will deal as much as a stray sword first light attack would. The third and subsequent attacks deal the same as the first light attack. This basically will play the opposite of the dagger nerf. It means you can whiff punish and stun passive poise with them, but cannot spam your opponent to death as the second light attack does not stagger. Thrusting Swords also received a nerf to its tracking and roll recovery, so you can easily strafe its attack. This clearly shows how simple changes to these weapons that people worry about when they think of no passive poise or low passive poise make these weapons much more manageable.
No poise counting anymore. Yeah, under these changes, there would be no poise counting anymore. But being honest, I am not sure if that's a bad thing. It's very clear that people do not want to overthink about poise in this game, and a lot of people do not like poise in this game. I guess simplification of the system makes sense,
making them still useful yet not too OP, contrary to what ignorant people think. Other things that received the poise damage changes are the shockwaves and push boxes. Things like this Royal Greysword Ash of War are now able to have pushback boxes and shockwaves, as you can see.
The shockwaves, pushbacks, and so on have its upsides and downsides. Upsides of this type of things is that like they are actually making the moves of the weapons that are overall bad kind of less bad. And the downside is that it feels fucking clunky as fuck to play against. Because yeah, I'm not sure if you guys are aware, but practically any weapon that slams the ground have some sort of the shockwave effect. This effect simply deals 1 poise damage. Because no one runs with fucking 0 poise, then you are essentially never going to experience the shockwave effect. Shockwave effects, as I said, they might make actually the bad weapons a little bit better, but at the same time, playing around this, especially on the latency, is very fucking not fun. And I personally really disliked playing against freaking shockwave weapons in Dark Souls 3. If like shockwave would be actually like working on the like special attacks and not like a passive and not neutral attacks, then yeah, sure.
You might be thinking, how is this accomplished? Before I explain the details of what was done, I need to show you how easy it is to do. When patch 1.07 was released, From Software gave us what I consider the solution to almost every PvP balance problem. All of these are the parameter data of each character attack animation. There is this new value that was added in patch 1.07 called Final Damage Rate Parameter. What this does is separate the damage of PvP and PvE. It controls all the elemental damages, stamina damage, and even poise damage. So if we look into any of these animations, it would have a designated final damage rate parameter. For this case, the Greysword uses the value 0. If we go check the multiplier in PvP for any animation that has the value 0, got these following values as multipliers. In vanilla, the poise multiplier was 1.35, whereas this mod has it as 2.7. This would mean all the Greysword animations all had poise multipliers of 1.35, whereas in this mod it is now 2.7. It is that easy to balance poise.
Let's not oversimplify it that way, because yeah, that's cool. We have a possibility to change the parameter of the weapon class in the one go by simply like multiplication, but yeah, at the same time it's just not exactly, it's not working the way that now it's just, you know, we fix the game. Yeah, I'm not really good in PvP. Can someone simplify why poise is broken in Elden Ring? Poise isn't broken, poise is boring. Like, you have very little amount of the sets that legitimately gives you a good fucking results in the PvP, in the meaning that, like, you know, you like vast majority of like balances around the poise is just requires you to ending up with the very similar sets. The problem with the poise is also that like it actually makes a lot of weapons just not good. They do not deal enough passive poise damage for the sake of, you know, to make them legitimate in the combat. So yeah, like that's another issue, and this is the issue that Gabri is mostly like addressing here. He just increases the poise damage of many weapons for the sake of, so you simply make the bad weapons more viable.
was chosen was due to a one-handed light attack requiring that multiplier to deal 134 points damage, which would be above 133 points. This would mean a heavier attack of a light weapon would then deal more than 134 points damage. Whatever the motion value of each attack in the weapon class of vanilla will now have a multiplier by 2.7, meaning depending on the motion value of the attack it will not just be 134 points damage, as that is the bare minimum for a light attack to stagger passive points. The power stance attack attacks that attack simultaneously, like stray swords, were also thought out when balancing this. When both attack hits, they deal 134 points damage. If any of the attacks hit separately, they will deal 67, which is half of that. Whereas something like power stance axes that come out at different timings each deal 134 points damage. This is so that attacks like Strace or Power Stance do not obliterate Hyper Armor attacks by dealing 268 points damage when both attack hits. You might then think that regardless they are already destroying Hyper Armor and make it non-functional by being 134 points damage. Fortunately, the Hyper Armor changes are easier than ever. You see, in vanilla the multiplier for Hyper Armor was half of your armor poise plus whatever the innate poise. As you see here, that is exactly what it is. To counter the increase of poise damage, the Hyper Armor was given the multiplier of 3 instead of 0.5. That will make it where Hyper Armor is strong enough to counter the increase in poise damage and even make it easier to Hyper Armor through attacks than even vanilla. So as you see, it was extremely simple to balance the poise damage, contrary to what people keep ignorantly saying that it is not possible to do. From Software even created a system that is so easy to use to allow it to change that it can be done in a few hours to completely balance the poise issues of Elden Ring. It is a matter of actually letting them know that yes, we want it, instead of acting like it is an impossible.
I think this is very unfortunate wording, because I'm not sure if you guys have like if you see it kind of like me, but it sounds like hey yo, we just changed the values and the game is fixed, yeah. Which it might be not exactly the case. Like even if you are going to introduce completely new poise system, the new issues might fucking arrive. Like for example, it might turn out that vast majority of the weapons in this game have such a fucking terrible movesets that they are not really like, you know, worth using anyway, and we are ending up in the square fucking one just with minimally different issue. But ultimately, the outcome is that the PvP feels bad still, yeah?
It is not a possibility, or saying that they would need to completely overhaul the entire combat or some ridiculous thing, considering that it can take just one or two click of a button. Damage. Damage changes is as easy as poise damage, using the same system to change it without changing the PvE damage. The damage issues all come from power stancing dealing way too much damage. Whereas another issue related to damage is what weapons that are meant to win trades don't deal enough damage. In this mod, all power stance attacks deal 20% less damage. Any power stance attack that deal damage simultaneously, like power stance spears and straight swords, got their damage reduced by 30% instead. This made them still do more damage than even two-handed attacks, but not by much. Crouching attacks damage changes will be explained in the crouching attack section later in this video. Before we go into damage of heavy weapons that always lose trades due to not having true combos, I want to talk about the synergy between light and heavy attacks that we changed in this mod, as that is important to help understand the improvements for heavy weapons we will talk about shortly after. In vanilla, From Software added a system where the second light attack comes after most animations. That made sense, and not just the first light attack. This was a great change that had a great impact on PvP for many weapons. However, that change is only for the second light attack only, and not the second heavy. Well, in this mod, the second heavy attack will come after every first attack, similar to how the second light attack comes after every single attack animation. That makes sense. So after the first light attack, jumping attack, running attacks, and so on, I say animations that make sense, as some heavy attacks don't make sense to allow them to go into the second heavy instead of the first.
Okay, like wait, because maybe I'm just like a little bit confused, but what he essentially did is allowed the blending of the R1 attacks into R2 attacks, yeah? I like it. Question is if that's even fucking usable in vast majority of cases. The another thing is, if you can blend the heavy attacks and the light attacks, it makes me wonder if you are not ending up with the infinite amount of the hyper armor, essentially. That depends how fast you can blend them. So that, you know, potentially it would end up in the situation some dude like it's like, you know, it would require shit tons of additional balancing.
In this mod, I polished the flow of the animations quite a bit that you can access much of the subsequent attacks easier depending on how it flows between animations. For example,
I mean, it's looking
you can do
great.
the first light attack with a colossal weapon here into the second heavy, and from there,
yeah, it's looking beautiful.
and from the second heavy you can do the third light attack, as you see here. It also makes it easier to put players.
To be honest, I would take potential fucking balance issues that the game could have after this change, just because of how cool the idea is and how decent it might reflect in the gameplay afterwards.
Into a 50-50 situation, since most heavy attacks have the same startup as the first light attack, meaning that after you get the first hit, the opponent will have to make a choice of either panic rolling to not get hit by the fast second light attack and risk getting hit by the second heavy, or not panic rolling, anticipating the heavy attack instead, but instead risk getting hit by the second light attack since it is fast. Regardless, notice how it flows beautifully, creating some unique combos instead of being a light attack into another light attack or heavy to another heavy. If we use something like the Zweihander, it will go into the first heavy instead, as that is a unique attack and it would break its unique aspect if we made it go into second heavy instead.
The problem is that there is no in-between animation. It's in the combat, it's gonna be super annoying from like a perspective of the opponent to fucking react to this. Like what happens is you have jump attack and like the weapon kind of teleports on the side.
Go into second heavy instead. This is an example of
like the animation is not smoothened, yeah, in any sort of way. There is no in-between animation. It's just like basically the weapon is like once it's like in front of you and then it teleports to the side. It's probably not that visible from the perspective of a regular viewer, like where you are not hyper focusing on your opponent. But when you are going to be in combat, it might feel fucking clunky. It might feel bad.
Heavy attacks that don't make sense to make them use the second heavy attack instead of first, as it will make Zweihander just another colossal if it goes into the second heavy like every other colossal sword. Now there is a good reason to choose those colossal swords over something like Zweihander and vice versa. So as you can see here, while we don't have true combos other than the ones for heavy weapons and the subsequent attacks, by having the light and heavy attacks have this synergy, you're able to capitalize on the mixing up of your light and heavy attacks. However,
yeah, this is great.
Light and heavy attacks aren't the only ones that have the good synergy.
Like, it's not even from the balance perspective, it's just from the perspective how cool it looks like, to be honest.
The offhand attacks and the power stance attacks also receive the ability to have great synergy with light.
Yeah, this, like, man,
here,
even though really it's gonna fucking be a fucking hell of a thing to balance, it is just looking great.
This in many ways raises the skill ceiling extremely high and much higher than a system with true combos from neutral like Dark Souls 3 did, while still retaining the skill aspect such as spacing of it due to passive poise not being a deterrent anymore, but instead a positive support of limiting the extremely fast attacks like the dagger example we gave earlier.
Yeah. Man,
heavy weapon changes. Since the damage of power stance was significantly reduced and fast weapons are able to break the passive poise reliably while also making sure the extremely troublesome fast attacks like the thrusting swords and daggers are properly nerfed to compensate for the changes. Fast weapons are in many ways in a perfect spot balance-wise, especially since they don't have the long stun that allowed true combos that was in Dark Souls 3 that made it easier to stun lock players, which caused a huge imbalance between heavy and fast weapons. Plus, fast weapons also now have access to all various attacks due to the change in the attack synergy of light, heavy, offhand, and power stance. Their second attack is always unreactable, so you are likely to always force rolls once you get the first hit, and from there capitalize on whether you should do a heavy attack, another light attack, an offhand attack, and so on. Heavy weapons on the other hand will need further changes to put them on the same level. Yes, fast weapons now having true combos and lower stun made them more balanced, but removing the true combo of heavy weapons made them worse than before because they ended up losing what they are best at doing, which is winning trades. We could bring the true combos for them so they can win trades again, but I think we could make it much more interesting. What we did in this mod is first we gave all the two-handed heavy weapons that have hyper armor the ability to reduce the incoming damage by 50% during hyper armor frames of specific attacks.
So they're moving the offensive ability onto the defensive ability. And you know what? It is actually not a fucking bad idea from one perspective. You can consider if like 50% is too much or not, guys. It doesn't matter. Just the idea of the damage reduction is interesting because that means essentially the weapons that rely on the hyper armor to be useful have more chances to be fucking mistaken during the high latency fights. Ultimately, you have like a more chances to make your attack actually fucking useful on the high latency, which is nice because like the hyper armor like a weapons on the high latency are very annoying to play with, yeah? Let's actually see a little bit more.
Those specific attacks are the first light attack only, first heavy attack only, running attack, running heavy attack, and backstab attack. You might think, why not give this to every hyper armor attack? Well, first, Ashes of War deal very high damage already, so it wouldn't make sense to give it to them unless they already have it. You also have to understand giving incoming defense during hyper armor is a very powerful tool, so you have to use it conservatively. In Dark Souls 3, it was specifically the first light attack that had the true combo and not the second and only the light attacks for the most part. In this situation, we are allowing anything from neutral able to win the trade, as those are the attacks that were likely to trade. The second and subsequent attacks will, for the most part, not be in the position to trade. That said, we did a big thing for the subsequent attacks, to make use of the second light attack from vanilla coming after most animation, and now the second heavy coming after most animations in this mod. We are bringing true combos only for them. The inspiration for this is the Knight Greysword moveset as it basically works very similar. In this mod, if you are using a heavy weapon regardless if it is two-handed or one-handed, the second light attack will always true combo with the third, and the third will true combo to the fourth if it has it.
This is actually powerful fucking visual blend over here.
True combo with the third.
The visual effect
and
into basically covered R1 startup. Interesting.
The third will true combo to the fourth if it has it. The second heavy will always true combo into the third light attack, since with the change of synergy between attacks we mentioned earlier, the second heavy acts like the second light attack that you can charge. So just like how the second light attack gets the third light attack, the second heavy gets the third light attack as well if you click the light attack after the second heavy. This means that if the second heavy hits, it also true combos into the third if it hits. You might think that might be a bit too much, but you have to understand that this only happens if you land the second light or the second heavy. Those are all hidden behind the neutral attacks. You do not get true combos from neutral attacks across the board. This is great as now it makes the second light attack specifically very threatening since they come out usually faster than the first light attack.
I just want to point one thing. It's the amount of people that freaking absolutely love the great swords, and like the amount of people that play great swords is astounding. And that's not even like meta setup. People, for example, play KGS, they main it, and like there is so many people that doing that because of the complexity of the weapon. The fact that you have true combos on it, you have like a requirement to like depending on when you are going to hit, you might actually follow up in different way and so on. It makes the gameplay more engaging, more interesting. And if there is so many people that just play KGS despite the weapon not being that great, just because of its ability to create the combos, then I guess just allowing everything in the game to create fucking combos, one of them more, one of them less, some of them more, some of them less valuable, but still combos nonetheless, might be very refreshing for the gameplay.
And have potential to dish out great damage. Plus, since the second heavy happens to visually look very similar to the second light attack, but you are able to delay its timing due to being chargeable, you can basically put your opponent in 50-50s after you get the first neutral hit, whether it is from the first light attack, running attack, first heavy attack, and so on. If the opponent anticipates the second light attack after getting hit by the first light attack, they will likely have to panic roll to not get hit, but risk getting roll caught by the second heavy attack that has the delayed timing. If they anticipate the second heavy attack instead, after getting the first light attack to hit, they will likely try to not panic, but they risk getting hit by the second light attack since it comes out fast and could catch them sleeping if they are not paying attention. If any of the second light attack or second heavy hit, you will dish out huge numbers. For colossal weapons, we ended up having to lower the stun level of only the neutral attacks, which are the first light attacks, running light attacks, and jumping light attacks. This is so we can make the second...
Oh, the notification shut itself. Thank you a lot for the gifted anonymous gamer and keeping the chat freaking sub only XD.
light attack come out faster and increase its speed to make use of the system we created. On top of that, if the second light attack or second heavy hit, it of course will true combo into the third light attack, and the interesting thing about the colossal swords and weapons, the third light attack happens to be the finisher. So the damage you will get if you hit them will be even greater than the great based class weapons. It will also finally make use of that useless twin blade talisman that increases the damage of finishers.
That's actually a good point, like this talisman is literally worthless.
Never even hit in PvE, let alone PvP. So in summary, the neutral base attacks do not true combo. However, if you are two-handed and have hyper armor, they are able to gain 50% damage reduction during hyper armor trade of the first neutral attacks. All subsequent attacks, in contrast, have the ability to true combo if they hit. These systems are only available to heavy weapons only. With these great improvements in the rework of crouch system that we will talk about shortly, heavy weapons will be more viable than ever. Crouching attacks. I'm sure many of you assume that crouching attacks should be nerfed similar to how daggers got nerfed as mentioned above. This would mean nerfing their poise damage would make sense.
You buff them, you
as they
son
are
of a
very
bitch,
fast.
no?
However, that is a horrible change to do. Crouch attacks have a potential to work as a system that gives the fastest option in your arsenal if it is balanced correctly. Balanced correctly means it doesn't mean it's the best attack in the arsenal, just the fastest. What we did in this mod is we first sped up all the slow crouch attacks.
That's looking so pretty. Actually, listen, I am not really great with the fighting games, but I watch YouTube videos. As far as I understand, in vast majority of the fighting games, the so-called, especially crouch medium attacks, are openers to the combos. To be fair, that's interesting. Like, you know, like giving, for example, that speed that we have just seen here. Let's look at it again. To this attack.
What we did in this mod is
like
we
it's
first
pretty
sped up
fucking
all the
cool.
slow crouch attacks to be similar in speed to the faster ones. So Colossal Swords got their pre-patch speed back, whereas Curved Greatsword and Colossal Weapons received a speed buff to their crouch attacks. All crouch attacks are able to break passive poise. That's the only buff they received, as I then nerfed them completely with many ways except the poise damage nerf method. All crouch attacks deal 134 poise damage, whether it's light weapons or colossal weapons, so they are extremely easy to hyper armor trade them. The regular crouch attacks received a 30% damage nerf. The power stance crouch attacks that attack simultaneously received a damage nerf of 50%. You might think it is a lot, but it is still more damage than the regular crouch attacks overall because 2 attacks are hitting at once. Then, crouch attacks received a nerf to their tracking. You are able to strafe every single crouch attack, including...
That was looking so junky. Can we look at it again? Let me actually see it in the slow motion.
A nerf to their
Let's see.
tracking.
Let's see. Yeah. The blade went through the guy, basically. It's looking kind of like junk. Let's continue.
Are able to strafe every single crouch attack, including the ones that wouldn't look like you can, like the Katana crouch attack, Great Spear, or Curved Greatsword ones, due to being horizontal, but as you can see, you can. The tracking is still strong enough though to allow to turn and burn Whiff Punish with them by turning completely 180 degrees at early frames. Lastly, their recovery into rolling and crouching was increased, which means it takes longer to cancel a crouch attack into rolling and crouching.
Ah, that's cool. What happens here, like, even if you are going to crouch poke with your beloved Colossal Sword, you are not going to Vortex your opponent. Wave Dash dead? Yeah. But, like, you know, we have, like, completely new way of gaming. I mean, like, not dead, but, like, you know, not as good as it is right now.
All these made them still very useful, as they are still the fastest attack options in your arsenal, but you cannot rely on them only, as they will get you punished if you do so, by even getting backstabs.
Listen, so this is like what I was talking about the fighting games, yeah? Like, you can cancel them into the Ash, you can cancel them into the attack, but you cannot really cancel them into the roll or, like, crouch. So it is an opener, essentially. If you are going to hit, like, exactly like on the demonstrated picture here. Gabri is doing the roll attack, yeah? There is, like, roll attack. You basically have opening for the aggressive attack, yeah? For the some sort of the combination. In this case, he decided to charge the R2.
Arsenal, but you cannot rely on them.
This is interesting.
Only, as they will get you punished if you do so, by even getting backstabs. Reliably. Backstabs. Speaking of backstabs, changing this one value right here basically makes backstabs similar to Dark Souls 3 level. The whiff animations now can stagger you unlike before, but should still keep the same recovery now that they are easier to pull off like in Dark Souls 3. The change basically is that we changed the angle check from 120 to 180.
We have to talk about it. Listen, if you are unlocking such a wide backstab window, it's going to bring junk. A lot of Dark Souls 3 players being like, oh my god, these backstabs so bad. Me backstepping on someone and punishing them just like that, because of the way how the latency works and possibility to buffer that backstab in the middle of the backstep, that was the shit. That wasn't. It's junk. As a person that, you know, likes junk, I do like it too. For the new player that comes to the game, they are going to hate that shit. I am fucking willingful to have backstabs like they are currently, which, like, makes the backstab feel like less junky as the mechanic overall, rather than bringing back 180 backstabs and have, like, fucking people, right? It's, you know what is going to open? It's going to open the opportunity for all the quick step features, like ability to backstab even easier, which already, like, you know, possibility to buffer the backstab during the quick step 180 is, yeah, it's like, it does feel bad to the a lot of players, and that's understandable because it's, especially on the high latency, it makes this game kind of a fucking joke. And like, you know, like the wider backstab window is going to make like it even more apparent that it just won't be fun to the average gamer. Should have just made backstab with animation half as long as, and that's it. Maybe, Mark. But you know, Marco, like there is like a one problem with that. If you are going to do that, then backstab punishing on the high latency is even worse. And like it's like the backstabs are almost non-existent on the high latency as they are right now, and they would be even worse. Wait till you see what he did to the quickstep and BHS. It's awesome. All right.
It is even easier than Dark Souls 3 due to the grab being 2 frames faster in Elden Ring. But even though it is 2 frames faster than Dark Souls 3, the whiff animations are much slower than Dark Souls 3 version. After testing them, they felt by many of the people testing as the best iteration of backstabs and even better than Dark Souls 3 version, due to the whiff animation being easy to punish, yet when you go for it properly, you get it reliably. You can now punish forward rolls, pivot backstabs, and much more. Combine the fact that crouching attacks are now useful on all weapons, but easy to strafe and backstab, should make positioning matter much more than ever. Light rolls, bloodhound step, quick step, and raptors.
Alright, let's see.
So these specific animations, in their own way, are game breaking for PvP.
They are game breaking as fuck, man. Like none of these supposed to exist. Like really, it's just okay. Differently, I would love BHS to exist, like as a tool that allows you to get like a distance and so on. But holy shit, maybe without iframes. You know, as potential possibility to, for example, like run out from the let's say the range of the dragon breaths or something like that. But holy shit. Okay, let's go.
The biggest culprits are the distance they travel first and then recovery cancels second. The distance they travel completely negates fundamentals as it lets you escape any attacks meant to roll catch.
Actually, you know what? Out of curiosity, I wonder if you are going to have similar opinion. I was thinking about it, and I was thinking, what if you could make the iframes recognize the type of the incoming attack? And for an example, BHS would work against, let's say, magic of some sort, like incantations, like for example, the dragon heads. But it wouldn't work against melee attacks. Like, I wonder if that wouldn't make like a fucking issues of some sort, yeah? But like I was thinking about it, and like BHS is, for example, very fucking good tool to get out from the like disgusting dragon spells that cover shit tons of fucking frames. Separate collision physics for range and melee. To be honest, you can do it even differently, Polly. What if you like, if maybe in the easier way, just like a recognition of the damage source? If or more like damage type. If the damage is physical, then it's not, you know, it just goes through. If the damage is magical, lightning, fire, and so on, it just goes through. And you know, in the situation when using the melee weapon, like you basically have like a split damage on everything but codeds anyway, and that fucking fist weapon. So like, you know, it's you wouldn't, you know, you would be able to operate on the systems that already exist rather than create something new.
What I did in this mod is the following. For light rolls, I made the distance the same as the mid rolls. However, I gave it the ability to cancel into almost everything but another roll faster. So roll into roll is still the same, but roll into attack is faster. Roll into crouch is faster, and so on.
That really would need to be significant speed for anyone to consider light rolls.
Rolling into blocking and crouching does not make you cancel roll to roll faster than...
Either that or like the requirement for the light roll would need to be, well, way more forgiving. It's like instead of 25%, it would have to be like, yeah, 50%. Nerf mid-roll frames, to be honest, maybe like a, you know, like a 1 to less frames or something like that. That would be cancer in PvE though. I wonder if they can like change the values for the iframes in the PvP only, or it is going only for the like tools in the game.
So you can move out of the light roll faster, you can attack faster, but your travel distance is the same as mid roll. Bloodhound Step. This is basically the same. This basically became the same as vanilla Quick Step, but with the visual effect of disappearing and appearing. Plus, it also uses the slow cancel instead of the fast cancel, so it doesn't recovery cancel anymore.
Like, my only problem is dragon fucking attacks, to be fair. Eliminate dragons, simple as... Yeah, actually, to be honest, eliminate the dragon spells, true. But yeah, like, dragon spells... I wonder if he changed something about dragon spells. We're gonna see further. You feel like dragon spells needs to be balanced on their own? This is most likely correct.
For Quick Step, it will keep its ability to recovery cancel, but all its iframes was removed.
Oh!
Furthermore, it got the ability to cancel into other animations faster, including into itself. Since it has...
Oh! But that also means on the low latency, it's going to actually boil to one particular problem. If you're going to play on the low latency and you can like a fast recovery out of the attacks and so on, that pretty much means that you can still cancel the stuff like Storm Stomp combo. On the high latency, you're gonna get hit. On the low latency, you won't. So on the low latency, the quickstep becomes fucking as annoying as it was in the past when it comes to like playstyle that you want to use Storm Stomp into true combo, yeah? I mean, I guess, like, you know, it's people can make argument that fucking Storm Stomp is brain dead on its own, yeah? Which is, I guess, true. But yeah, there is still a problem, yeah? It's fine because there is never low latency real. Storm Stomp doesn't combo? Okay, let's see. Let's see further.
Has no iframes anymore, and being able to recovery cancel and cancel into other attacks faster, it will be used more offensively, whereas Bloodhound Step defensively. As a bonus, I gave Quick Step and Bloodhound Step the ability to use crouch attack all the time if you click light attack, and backstep attack all the time if you click heavy attack, to make them much more consistent.
Wait, so he moved the backstep attacks, made them basically easier to execute, because right now, for the sake of to do the backstep attack forward out of the quick step or Bloodhound Step, then you have to use tech. You need to do 180 quick steps or like do like perfect 90-degree. Interesting.
Consistent in what they want, in what you want them to do. This made them extremely fun to use, especially Quick Step, as you can see here. Remember, it doesn't have iframes anymore, so don't let it be in this fast to cancel scare you. As for Raptor of the Mist, it only got its ability to recovery cancel removed. Bonuses.
Okay, so it's like a slow wash, I see.
These are things that are not as important as the changes we mentioned previously, but are still worth mentioning for improving the game. First, you are able to reverse sprint jump when locked on instead of only when unlocked. This makes it very reliable and quick to do, as you can see. Another thing is, all attacking recovery of heavy attacks, offhand attacks, and power stance attacks was made the same as the light attack, so they can come out faster and make more use of the light and heavy attack synergy that we mentioned previously. Heavy attacks are slower than light attacks, so there is no reason to make them cancel slower from a light attack. The fast recovery cancel Ashes of Wars were made even faster to match that of the recovery cancel of light attacks if it is slower. Furthermore, all attack-based Ashes of War will not use the faster recovery cancel, whereas the defensive ones that have iframes will.
That looks clean, yeah.
All attacks of light attacks were lower.
Let's look at it again.
Furthermore, all attack-based Ashes of War will not use the faster recovery cancel, whereas the defensive ones that have iframes will use the anything that has iframe will use the slower cancel.
To be honest, it's very fucking interesting because like all these changes are kind of like buffing the offensive abilities or of everything across the board. It's just in a little bit different way, like than we are familiar with. Because right now, like our familiarity with the offensive playstyle is jump on the fucking guy, say like Yusha, and then hit them with the jump L1 or like, you know, or something like that. It feels like duelist patch. It does. It's clearly like looked at from the perspective of the 1v1s, I would say.
Anything that has hyper armor startup faster than 10 frames was pushed to 10 frame startup, so that we don't get instant hyper armor trades like currently Stormstop does. All recovery into rolling of all attack animations was increased, meaning it takes longer to cancel into a roll from all attack animations. In Elden Ring, the roll cancel has a ridiculously low recovery. This makes it very hard to punish mistakes. To counter the roll cancel nerf, movement cancel was made better, and that includes regular moving, block cancel, and crouching. Roll cancelling is still faster than movement cancel though, just slower than block cancel and crouching. For Ashes of Wars, I would like to go over them on another video, but just a teaser. Bloodhound Finesse works like this. The first part has an excellent tracking throughout with infinite tracking 2 frames inside the hitbox. This allows players to basically make use of the backward jump to sort of reverse jump with it, the same way you can with the reverse backstep.
For a second I thought maybe it's gonna look junky and it feels junky, but from what we see, it actually looking legitimate.
The follow-up received infinite tracking all the way to its hitbox. This makes it so that you can actually free aim where you want your character to appear from before the animation finishes. There are other interesting ideas that I want to show you, but I will save them for when I release the mod to the public. Regardless, I hope this shows you how much better Elden Ring could be. The biggest changes are the poise damage and damage changes sections that will greatly help improve Elden Ring PvP. It took me less than an hour to do the poise and regular damage changes, as I showed you how easy it is, and look how drastic the changes can be. This is with a third-party tool, let alone From Software with its original tools. From Software took the time and trouble to make a great system like the final damage rate parameter that only affects PvP. It is just a matter of using it now. They will only use it if they see demand for it. If your expectations are so low, you will get low results. There's an old saying that says, aim for the 100 to get the 90 on your grades. This is no different. As for this mod, I plan on polishing and completing it. Then I will release it to the public for you guys to try it out. It will be playable on seamless co-op. I will try to make it easily accessible so you can just try it out without issues. While yes, I do have the say in most of what happens to it, it is still a community effort. There are reasonable arguments against certain aspect. I will take into consideration. In the end, I don't really profit from any of this, and the only reason I'm doing it is due to my passion for it. The main goal of the mod will be to visually show feedback to From Software about what changes we should get. If we don't get anything, we will go to plan B and go all out with the PvP mod. This could mean even getting a dedicated PvP server just for the mod that allows us to add covenants, player limit, invasions balanced specifically on PvP, more arena modes with newer maps, and so much more.
What he's talking here about is to create a kind of, you know, possibility to for the players to easily access the custom servers. So it would just be like Dark Souls 3 private servers basically. From that what I was talking with Gabri, yes. So you see, there is one thing, guys. This mod that we have here, Seamless Co-op, it is not just like a mod for the co-op. It becomes kind of platform for modding all across the board. It is even good for single player modding. Like for the sake of to play like the mods on the single player, because it separates your save files. So when you are coming back to the vanilla, you are not risking that, oh, I forgot about this character that I had here, and this character has like a, you know, some sort of the illegal items, boom, my account is fucking banned. It's Seamless Co-op kind of becomes the mod hosting platform on its own, and what I expect in the future what's going to happen is at some point we're probably going to get a legitimate server browser with the possibility to just simply join the servers, like some sort of the easy way of like installing the additional mods and just, yeah, being able to create our own multiplayer experience.
We can even make it where you start the games with PvP ready characters that you can change their level but respect their stats. This way everyone is at the same level cap, making it easier to connect with each other and balance around. The sky is basically the limit if we can get a dedicated server just for the mod. That said,
Yep.
I will leave it at that for now and take things step by step. Please share it with as much people as you can to bring more awareness, and hopefully we can get something going for this game. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and you all have a wonderful day. Have a good one.
I'm dropping the like on the video. It was good. Not everything that I have seen in the video is something that I am super happy like to see in the game without like very dedicated testing. And there is like a, I guess, different way of approaching the balance and philosophy behind it. Overall, I think the video on its own is absolute net positive, and a lot of changes in there are very interesting. And the only thing that honestly is bothering me is just the fact this is fucking game rework at this point. And what does that mean? It's probably not going to happen, but I am repeating that over and over. These developers are fucking nuts. What these motherfuckers at From Software are doing since patch 1.06, they are flipping this game over and like just completely fucking changing the systems across the board, making the fucking reworks, adding the completely new systems that override the old ones. They are fucked up. I have no idea what the fuck happened to From Software for the last like a fucking half the year, but it's completely different people. Like it's just completely different approach. They are crazy. So maybe even just like judging about like what the fuck is going on with the official game and the patching in there, like patch like that with such insane changes that overhaul the whole fucking fighting system in the game might actually happen. Especially because it's not really that much job on the fundamental level. Like balancing is the other thing, yeah, but as Gabri said, even the person that is not really that savvy with tech, he was capable to do all this shit on basically his own with very little help from people from the outside. So there is potential, yeah? Conspiracy theory, they are testing the Armored Core game mechanics in stealth on Elden Ring, real? But yeah, I definitely enjoyed the video. It was interesting alternative to what we currently have. To some extent, things definitely looks better in the video than they look in the original game. Some of them I have just a little bit worries that they wouldn't work in the actual gameplay. If you are going to add invasions, if you are going to add the Colosseum gameplay, the biggest concern is just the fact, like, you know, these changes wouldn't be that great for all the various game modes that we have across the game. Yeah, because like a PvP is not only duels, yeah, PvP is also invasions. PvP is also 2v2s, 3v3s, 6-man brawl, 4-man brawl. We have shit tons of way to do PvP in this game. And you kind of have to look on like across the board and look what is good and what's bad, yeah? Spirit Summons, actually PvP with Spirit Summons as well, man. This is actually fucking true. Even stuff like this supposed to be taken into consideration to some extent. And yeah, like the video seems to be hyper focused on the position of the duelist, basically, yeah? Different rune levels, different rune levels. The balance definitely might feel different, like on the low level and on the high level, yeah. Like if you are like going to play with, let's say, for example, level 125, you cannot, for example, just like according to this video, let's say, yeah, like all this blending into Ashes of War and so on. Like if you are going to play on the max level, then like blending fucking potential is infinite. You never run out of the fucking like mana after all, because you have so much mind. And yeah, that for example might be the problem. It like the changes presented in the video might, if they would be pushed to the main game, you could end up in the situation that people essentially sit in the infinite hyper armor and so on. And because of that, like the additional testing would be required. you know, it's a lot of issues that might like come from these changes. And yeah, it's whereas the application of the change might be easy, making the change that makes fucking a lot of sense is completely different case. And yeah, like this mod essentially, since it is not a small change, it might be easy change from the perspective of like of implementation, but it is not a small change from the perspective of the impact that it might have onto the game. So it's quite opposed. The impact is fucking huge, yeah? So, like, that requires absurd amount of testing. And I think, like, Gabri even mentioned here in the video that a lot of the changes might just not happen just because of the fact that From Software do not want to interfere much with the fucking current systems in the game. And even, like, among people that are super PvP enthusiasts, like, everyone have different approach how the game's supposed to be balanced to some extent, yeah? Like everyone might have their own opinion, yeah, and like this mod might bring even more questions than solutions, yeah. It might be even more convoluted for the developer of the game to understand what the fuck this stupid community actually wants from them at the end of the day.